And I will tell y'all, it didn't matter if he did get a bond. It didn't matter what it was. I had the money, literally. Like I had the money. Like people like, I'll put it up, no problem. So I'm back on that. But I'll tell you, and I've just come to this realization, like, even if that was to happen, like, I still ain't gonna get what I want.
Right. Unless you sign back.
Right. There's nothing that can do that. So, and you know, and we'll be totally transparent. I was like, I want them to feel exactly how I feel. I want you to feel. But now I'm like, I don't want nobody to feel this. Like, because you gotta think, man, something gone and it can't be, it's a whole piece gone from me.
Hey guys, welcome to the Soul of a Man podcast. It's your boy DB here. I'm with my homie Chill, my podcast partner, my wonder twin. What's good, Chill?
I got it, man. How you?
I'm hanging in there, brother.
All right.
Well, look, soulmates, this episode, man, is one that I can't say I'm happy to do. I'm happy to talk to the brother that we have here today. And I wish it was on different terms and circumstances. If you're a parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle, godparent, or you just, have some impact over any kid's life, you should really watch this episode. Today we have with us a friend, a brother I've known now, probably 10 years and didn't even realize it's been that long.
Yes.
We belong to this same circle in Charlotte, our date night crew. He's a hilarious brother. We hit it off right away. We talk about everything from our wives to hip hop to clothes to sneakers. You name it, we kind of talk about it. Today, we're going to talk about the loss of a child. And not just, it's tough anytime anyone loses a kid, but to lose a kid to senseless violence and gun violence is a whole nother animal within itself. I bring you today my friend, my brother, Kareem Fogle. Kareem, welcome to the Soul of a Man, brother.
Welcome. Thanks for having me, fellas.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, bruh, what we always do, man, is when we have these episodes, we kind of have the guests tell us a little bit about themselves, background, family information, where you grew up, how did it work in your household in terms of your parents, siblings, spouse, kids, the whole 9 years, and then we'll get the show started.
Excellent. So, as you know, my name is Kareem. I'm from the Low Country. I went to Somerville, so my parents live in Somerville. I was born at Rivers Avenue, North Charleston. Everybody watching. The Naval Hospital. It's kind of sketchy. Not anymore, but back then it was. I'm from a two-parent home. I didn't grow up in the best as far as neighborhood outside, but those four walls, my parents made sure that things were stable inside those four walls. I have one sibling, my brother. The funny thing is my name is I'm literally named after Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Oh,
so you hear a lot of people say that. My parents are huge Laker fans. My one sibling, his name is Jamal. He's
Jamal
named
Wilkes?
after Jamal Wilkes.
Wow.
My son, we'll talk about, my mom wanted me to name him Kobe Shaquille. And was literally upset and had an adult temper tantrum. As far as growing up, my dad's ex-military, so I saw both my parents go to work. So I knew hard work ethic. Me and my brother both played sports. My parents were the type to say, you have to meet this standard or better, or you're not doing any extracurricular activity. So that stuck with me the whole time through, as far as like grammar school, high school. Played basketball. My brother was more the athlete than me. He played 4 sports, I think. But I was my mama baby. So we have the same birthday.
Oh, wow.
What's funny is that my grandson, my son's son, we have the same birthday.
Wow.
So that's 3 generations. As far as my mom worked. My mom still works actually. My dad's retired now. Coolest cat you'll meet. Biggest 5'7" dude ever. So my mom always did retail. I saw her do retail. She went to school. The funny thing, talking about school, secondary, I watched my dad work full time. Sort of like one of my brothers, work full time with the family and go to school. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, in my household, it was either 2 things. My dad was like, okay, either you're going to go to the military or you're going to go to school. Yeah. He prefaced the military saying, that's not for you. You're not going to do well. That's the first thing I listened to my dad. He said, make sure you get a climate control job because I hated doing yard work. So I took that into account as well. I went to South Carolina State, graduated from South Carolina State, Bulldogs. I know it's two Aggies by me, but I was going to wear my shirt and nail you, but I didn't. Other than that, me and my brother, we grew up. I had the dad that was the neighborhood dad, so a lot of my friends didn't have their father. So my dad was the one that, just impart wisdom on everybody. So I remember like kids were breaking into houses and like my parents' house didn't get touched because my dad used to leave the door open. Being forgetful as he is, but yeah, it was kind of like, no, don't mess with like that's Mr. Eugene, Mr. Gene. So that was kind of how I grew up. As far as my friends, all my friends are successful. All my friends, my family, a little rough around the edges and well known for some uncool things, some cool things, but for the most part, well known. So, that's a good segue to my son. So my son was able to move around because of my last name.
Gotcha. But I want to interrupt you really quick because we can't leave this out.
Okay.
Wife and kids.
Oh, my wife. I'll tell everybody, if you thinking about it, it's right. Best decision I ever made. My wife, Jarvis, is, how would I put it? I always tell her, I said, she's humble, arrogant. Real good way because I watched her build all the way up to where she is now. And the one good thing is I didn't want anybody complacent. Mm-hmm. So even though you meet a level, you set a goal, because we always sit down every year and we set a goal. Okay, we're going to meet this goal. Short-term goals build up the long-term goals. Set the goal. And I'm always the one trying to get there. She already here. Like, I'm already on the next year. I'm like, yeah, it's June, July.
Right.
My kids, got Nas. We're going to talk about him. But my other 3, I got a son, 3 daughters. My oldest daughter, Empress, she's right now she's attending Juilliard. This is her first semester.
Wow. That's big.
Huge.
Really proud. Really proud of her.
What's the focus?
She is all into acting. Very, very. I'll tell you, she's way better than I thought actually. Because before, you have expectations of your kids and you set them high, but then to hey, like the best performing art school in the world, like one shoe, and it was on a whim. Like this is like the last school she thought about. So before that, she was thinking about Ivy League, and she did very well in school, so she got some offers. But she took a trip, and that was an audition trip that I thought was just a trip, like, okay, you're 18, let you go out a little bit. So she got the trip. My parents picked her up, started screaming, she got a call back, went back, got in. The strangest thing is that I didn't know, but only 2% get in as far as from the world.
Wow.
As far as that, she said to start with 12. They bring back like I want to say maybe 9 or 6, and then they picked 2 people. So I proud of that. So I got another one coming that's on the flip side. My middle child, Carrington. That's kind of what they say is my twin. She's more the tech. She's the techie kid. I already see that she understands the value of education just from her circle. So one of the things, I read a lot of peer studies, and one of the studies says once children get 16, you don't really have too much influence on them. Their peers influence them.
Right.
So when you're around that circle, just say, you have a child and okay, they have that structure. Someone has instilled in them like, hey, hard work to get this is not going to come easy. Or just instill lessons like you don't get everything. So it's hard for me to say no just because they're girls.
Yeah.
But I try to make sure that I put some no's in there on purpose so you can understand disappointment because, life, what I call life is a beautiful nightmare. It's beautiful because you hear. It's a nightmare because you don't know what's coming next. Yep. You can always say what's coming. You can plan. But one of my favorite sayings is God always laughing at your plans.
Yeah.
And that's true. He's a comedian. Now we get to my youngest. Her birthday's the day after mine. My birthday's November 16th. Hers is the 17th. She's a Scorpio. Scorpio women, my mom's one. Whew. But I think all of them are going to have an impact on the world. But this one, I don't know yet. So I can tell you what the other two, I know the path they're going to go. But this one here, I'm like, I don't know yet. Very animated, sings, acts. She's super. She's projected to be 6'4".
Wow.
Yeah, she's in the 98th percentile. Right now she's playing soccer. I just left the soccer game. It's just amazing how big she is compared to the rest of these kids because I see her as a little kid. So, but that's based my family structure. I don't say we eat every night. I do try to make sure we eat 3 times a week. Like we at least sit together, and we sit together. No electronics. I don't bring my phone downstairs, and I don't ask these questions about like how was your day. I want to know what made you excited, what made you sad. So it's more trying to tap into their emotions, just with them being females, and I'm trying to explain to them and get them to understand now being a black female.
Yeah.
Because that's it.
Right.
You coming out with 2 strikes.
Right.
So I want to tap into the emotions because I think a lot of things don't think. We can look at facts. People make decisions emotionally that have changed the course of what we call life.
Yeah.
Off of emotions. So one of the things I do that, and I understand the curriculums are changing, so I try to keep my girls, they go to tutoring just to get critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
Which is one thing that's lacking as far as I think in the curriculum. Now I remember when we went there, we were still giving sprinkles of critical thinking, like, okay, so we got the scenario, so what would you do? Okay, what would you do? Or you remember the books that would be like, hey, you read this, go to page 67. Read that, go to page 12. Didn't even realize it was critical thinking there because you're like, okay, if I go this way, and it's just one of the things I think is missing. So as far as my whole family structure, I think I do have a large family. Both my mom and dad both had 7 siblings.
Wow.
Of the same sex. So
Wow.
My mom's 7 sisters, my dad 7 brothers.
Wow.
I'll take it back. There was seven my dad all together, but still same siblings. So they intertwined with each other growing up. So my parents are from a little small town called Dulchester, South Carolina. It's between, I don't even know what it's between. If I tell you, I wouldn't even still know. It's between 2 small towns. So, but yeah, so our families and the way my parents are, my dad didn't have a lot. Mm-hmm. So, my grandma was sharecroppers and they were there. Now, on the other side, My mom would say she didn't have a lot, but if you look at the environment, no, they were okay.
Right.
You know, my granddad, he built his house. They
Yeah.
had a lot of land, and you know, both and my grandma went there. Oh, I'll tell you an interesting fact. So my grandma and my mom graduated high school together. Wow. So she saw that, wow, I need to go back and get my diploma.
Wow.
And so she walked the stage with my mom.
Wow.
That's dope.
Yeah, so it's all been a big education thing. And right now we're still close. I think everybody's close. You know, you get older now when you think about your parents, and you're like, oh man, like you always want to go this way, that. But I understand now that that's when they actually fellowship with each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it's sad.
Yeah.
But then I mean, you got to understand it. So now with me getting to my age, and I'm like, you know, I'm hearing about my classmates
Yeah. Yeah.
passing away, and you know, it's just giving me a whole different perspective in life. Like what I'm still going through.
Yeah.
I look at life man, I'm laissez-faire with it. If I can't change it, it's gonna be what it is. So right. I mean, it's got me in trouble. It has, but it's too short. It's too short, and I'm trying to enjoy. And my whole thing is like every parent, you want to see your kids be law-abiding, self-sufficient humans.
Right.
That's our whole goal.
Yeah.
So that's my thing now, just to impart in my kids, because I see, you know, you look at things hindsight 2020, and you think like, what if I did this? If I did this? So all the what ifs, now I'm imparting to them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
So let's talk about Nas, man.
Cool.
Your son, Nas was 21.
Yeah, 21.
Correct me in terms of the timing. December of last year.
December 22nd, 7:04 a.m. I'll never forget it.
Talk to us.
Yeah.
We can.
I want to, before we delve there, he said Nas and you just smiled. So I want to hear what brought that smile.
You know, because you know, you go through growing pains with kids, and you know, I told D, we're gonna be super transparent. I didn't grow, you know, he didn't grow up in my house with me. My thing was I want to keep the peace with everybody. All his mom, his grandparents, all of them were right there. I didn't want to break that peace up, but man, he's just one of them kids, man, just real charismatic, super smart, just like every other kid. Didn't apply himself fully. So, you know, it's kind of like, I remember he made like all A's one time, and we like, oh, this is what you got to do. So, you know, after that, I mean, he moved around some schools and went to school. I mean, he made decent grades, had some friends. But remember, this is going to piggyback on what I told y'all about your influences. See, the one thing is, you know, you want to shield your kids from everything. But now, it's kind of like you got to find a healthy balance. Because my thing was, I shielded him from everything. So now when he saw this, he's like, oh, wow. It was exciting. It's exciting for me to be out here. Excited. And on top of that, he's the only boy. He's spoiled beyond rotten. He never paid a car payment or bought anything. I think he had 3 cars.
Wow.
At one point, he had the best. He stayed with my parents. And we get that, like, he stayed up here. He stayed, but the one thing is, it's too late now. He's too old. He's 15, turning 16. Remember what I said about that? I can attest to that. The one thing is, I moved up here in 08. I remember he's going from 5th to 6th grade. And I remember my best friend saying, yo, get him and let him come stay with you right now. But I'm like, nah, I'm not going to take him from, like, that's his happy place. That's the one thing too about your kids. You know, you don't you don't want to put them in uncomfortable places, but it's necessary because that's life. So I let him not let. What kind of? I could have pitched a fit and we can do all that, but first of all, I will attest his mom. There was never any. I never had anybody in my business. I was never sitting in front, never garnishing no wages or anything like that, because I understood from my father and seen him take care of a family. This is your responsibility, regardless if y'all together or not. So, back up to 5th grade and he doesn't leave, and I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna let him go. Now, hindsight 2020, I was like, yeah, I should have got him right then. So he's doing all these things, and then you get to 15, 16, maybe 4. I take that back. 14, you see a shift. Now I'm keen. I know what's going on, but I'm like, nah, maybe not. Let's see, because this is a different generation. I think they're very smart. I do not agree with what people say. They're very intelligent because they have everything right there in front of them, in their hand. So I think that the kids are really ahead of us a lot of times. So we may think we know, yeah, we don't really know. So I just saw that shift, and I'm like, all right, I know you're at. I know what neighborhood you're in. The funny thing, I used to tell my son all the time, because I knew all the guys in the neighborhood. They knew my son.
Right.
Oh, I used to have them watching, I used to get calls, and they'd be like 1, 2 in the morning, and they'd be like, yo, man, light just came on in the house, man. Think he just came in. I'm like, what? So I used to get him all the time, like, hey, man, what you doing just coming in? Huh? What? I was like, yeah, you just came in. Because I had everybody else was looking out. Now that circles back to me, because I was never the tough guy. Like, I wanted to play basketball. They knew my parents didn't play. They knew I had to go to school. They knew I had to go to church on Sundays. Everyone knew that, so I kind of knew I had a healthy balance where I could still go. Like right now, I can go in all the hoods. I don't have to worry about anything because I was never a knucklehead to do anything like that. Even though I know all of them, they knew what I had. I think that's from my parents, and especially my dad, just making sure, listen, this is what you want to do. This is what you got to do. So I remember my dad sitting me down telling me everything. Like, listen, even about marijuana, like, hey, just remember you got to pee in a cup one day. That's all my dad told me. I walked off. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all he told me.
Yeah.
And I remembered that. So I mean, back to my guy, and Jarvis calls him her grown big man, or her man child. He just started, he moving around, He had a child, and I was like, all right, like, maybe this going to be it right here. Started doing well, and I was like, and I remember the last time I talked to him, we talked for like 2 hours. Now, I could back up. Now, we had fallen out. Like, but as teenage, I'm like, it's growing pains. I mean, I think me and him both realized that.
Yeah.
Because, and I was like, he was like, oh, man, I'm trying to do this music thing. I'm like, all right. Cool. Like, and the crazy thing is, he literally put out an album like right before he passed away. Wow. And guess who he put on the cover? Me and him.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
Well, take us back to that day.
Man, I'm in the bed, like my phone rings, like I tell you, 7:04. Look, I'm like, it's my dad. My dad retired. He don't get up to about 12. I'm like, what's going on? So I grab the phone, and I'll tell you this, like, that whole feeling is real. Like, when people say you just get a sinking feeling like something ain't right. When I turn the phone and look, I'm like, something ain't right. The first thing going in your mind is you thinking your parents. First thing, I'm like, oh, man. I'm like, oh, what's going on with my mom? I'm like, maybe one of my aunts. Answer the phone. My dad's voice cracked. He's like, hey. And I'm like, what's up? I'm like, what's going on? He's like, somebody killed Nas. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, somebody killed Nas. And my dad breaks down crying. I immediately just throw the phone and just start screaming. Jarvis runs upstairs because, you gotta mind, it's a weekday, so she's getting the girls ready for school. Runs upstairs because I'm screaming. Runs upstairs. She's like, what's going on? What's going on? I tell him like somebody killed Nas. She starts screaming. So now I got my girls. And no. I think they had to be gone. They were gone already. My first thought, let me get on this phone and make some calls. So I preface it to my dad told me like, oh, the guy who did it turns himself in. So, and we would be totally transparent. I was like, why? Where he at? I'm gonna go pay his bail. Get back that, I'm sitting there. I made some calls. My phone just starts going crazy, y'all. I'm just seeing text. I'll tell you what I did. You know, my boy John comes over, Nell comes over. Everybody's like, yo, man, just chill out. Don't go nowhere. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm going to preface this and tell you, you didn't know this, John. I'd already had my bag packed. I was like, yeah, I'm going to just let all this die down. I'm peeling out. I'm out. I'd already made all his calls. Hey, I need this, that, and the third. Meet me this, that, and I made all the phone calls. I left. Yo, this is the thing. I had not talked to my mother yet. I'm like, what is going on with her? Because when I tell y'all, like, that was like her baby. You gotta think that's her first grandchild, her only boy.
Yeah.
I finally talked to my mom. My mom said, for me, do not come down here. Wait till tomorrow. I said, okay. Excuse me. I look back at my phone. I'm like, you know what, man? I bet you I'm dreaming, man. Like, man, I need to wake up. I lay back down. I go to sleep. Wake up. I'm like, all right, cool. Look at the phone. 30 missed for calls. Like, oh, I'm still in this dream, man. Put the phone down. I go back to sleep. I wake up. I do this again like 5, 6 times. I'm literally, I don't remember those first days. Like, it was just, I was just there. I remember the drive, everybody telling me to be safe. I don't remember driving home. I really don't. And we can back up. I can tell you where it happened. So my son gets killed right next door to my parents' house.
Wow.
So the house is on the corner. It's a fence. It's apartments. It literally happened in the building, right? So every time my parents come outside and turn to get in their car, there's a constant reminder right there. Every single day. So I get down there, you see everybody. I'm still thinking the same thing. When I tell y'all the devil was in my ear, like I'd already played out all scenarios. I could have got whatever I wanted. Like it could have been really, really bad because of my family name, all the resources. I'm getting calls like, what you need? What do you need? You want where everybody's. What do you want? What do you want? So
You going to get it.
yeah,
And when you say what do you want, I'm assuming people are talking about, do you want this kind of, this nine, this or
you
that?
want this, you want addresses, you want all of this. Like, I got everything for you. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? Because if not, you don't want to do it, you just say the word. And I thought, I'm like, no. Because I'm battling now. Like, I'm finally going, like, all the stuff I'm hearing, I'm like, I'm living this. I'm battling. I got the angel devil on my shoulder. Nah, like brown hair, like where you from, like where you grew up, like how dare you? And it's like, nah, don't do it as a kid. I mean, found the kid's 19. I'll tell you, to this day, I don't know exactly what happened. I can tell you from what I've been told. I know the premise of what happened, though. I'll back up, too, because we're talking about gun violence. I will back up. I remember going to my son's room, right? I see a box, and I'm like, Smith & Wesson. Immediately, I'm like, please tell me you got some papers. So he has registered, went, has concealed carry. This guy's walking around with his gun on his waist though. So now I got to pull him like, no, that's not how you move. You don't want everybody to know you got it. That's not the point of it. So I know he told me he's at a party. So when I talked to him, last time I talked to him, he was like, yeah, Dad, I was at this party, man. Because we're out there and some girls come down the street, you know what was him and his boys, they running, they in the street. Next thing you know, the girls jump in his truck, they go to a party, house party. He's like, yeah, man, 3 dudes at the party. And he's like, I'm watching. And he's like, yeah, one dude comes by, it's like three guys come by. And then they come back, and like one guy swings at me, and I punch him, and then I take everybody, we go and leave. And I'm like, oh, you left. So now I'm thinking like, was that the start of it? Because, of course, there's females involved.
Yeah.
There's a female involved. I'll tell you craziest thing, too. My uncle is at my house. So the kid that shot my son literally knew him because he came to the house and knocked on the door. And my uncle was like, nah, he's not here. He's, he over here because he's thinking, oh, he's one of the little dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's over across the fence. So that right there, and just me having to talk to my uncle because he feels responsible for that. Because he's like, if I would have known, but I'm like, no one knows. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, right now, like I said, I was telling you guys earlier, therapy is the greatest thing in the world. I just told my wife I want to do in person because I've only done virtual. I'm like, I need to sit down and talk to somebody now. I think there's some things that we deal with as far as why I said everybody can go to therapy because all of us dealing with these traumas we don't even know about. Yeah. We really don't. So, I mean, just hearing it from an outside view, a non-biased opinion. Because, this thing is cliche in our community to say, okay, you go talk to your pastor and all that, but now you got to think your pastor knows your whole family. Yeah. So he cannot give you a biased opinion because he knows, okay, I know your background, I know you're from, I kiss your grandmama every Sunday, I kiss your mama. No, so I wanted to get away from that. I was like, no, I want somebody who does, I don't know them, they don't know me. Yeah. This is their specialty. This is what they do. My wife still can't talk about it.
So I'm sorry to interrupt you. For our viewers, Jarvis is Nas's bonus mom, not his biological mother.
Right.
So how I found out, oddly enough, 6 months later, we're at our friend's birthday party. Mm-hmm. We talk about the podcast, and you mentioned you were doing music, and you wanted to be on the pod. I had no clue when you said it to me at that moment. This was the reason why you wanted. I'm like, well, cool. He wants to promote his music. I'm cool with that. We give anybody the avenue. We're good either way. It wasn't until we came back to John and she's house that they shared the news. And I'm like, wait a minute. Time out. I've been with this brother all night. He's got to be thinking, I ain't heard from Darren about this in 6 months. Then I felt like shit. I'm just going to be completely honest. I called my wife into the room. I was like, yo, I got to call Kareem and apologize. We just didn't know.
Right.
Because there's no way something can happen to one of my friend's kids, and I don't reach out. Jar comes over the next day, and she's like, Darren, I think you should have Kareem on the podcast. She's like, I think it'll help. And so she and I started talking. I'm like, Jar, we didn't know. She's like, I know y'all didn't know.
Right. And that's what I told you.
And I told you, I said, brother, Monday I'm calling you, and it's not to talk about the podcast. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm going to check on you, and it's not going to be to talk about this podcast. Because that's the farthest thing from my mind, considering I'm a father, he's a father, we're all fathers, and we all have sons. And daughters. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
So I know you said Jar can't talk about it. Mm-hmm. How has this affected both Jar and your daughters?
I thought about that question too, and I'm like, all right, like, if anybody, I'm like, I shouldn't be talking about it. But the one thing I have learned through this is people deal with grief differently. I think the one thing is the kids, as far as Empress, because you got to think Empress and Nas were very close. So just think about that. So we had to sit Carrington and Kinsley down and tell them this. One of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, yo. One of the hardest things I've ever done. But I had to tell them. And of course, you know, when I told them that, they just boo-hoo, broke down crying. Especially Nas and Kinsley. Nas used to put Kinsley to sleep, like, for her nap. So, you know, I remember, like, that was one of her first words, like, just call him Nas, like, Nas. Just call him over the house. So I knew it was going to be hard on her because at her age, I'm like, the concept of death is, you know, and then how it happened. And I'll be honest with y'all, to this day, I've not told them how it happened. I don't think that they're ready
I would agree.
to hear that because I wasn't ready to hear that. And I will tell you how I found out. And I'll preface it. So Nas was shot 21 times. The coroner came to my parents' house. I was living in the back. Because I'll tell you this, all I did was sleep because I was like, this ain't real. So I'm back to sleep. I hear the coroner and he's like, and I thought it was the dumbest question in the world. I was like, why would you want to know how? But now I look at it like, I'm so happy somebody said that because that would have tore me up. He's like, yes, he shot him in the head and he kept shooting him. So I'm like, was this something that already, you know, now you're thinking, happened. And I hear this now. Thank y'all. I hear this. This is still before we do any memorials. So now, you know, I'm back on go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, oh, is that so? So I know, I'm like, oh, he turned himself in. I'm like, okay, I know where he's at. Like, when is the bond hearing? So I'm back to that. And I would tell y'all, it didn't matter if he did get a bond, it didn't matter what it was. I had the money, literally. Like, I had the money. Like, people like, I'll put it up. No problem. So I'm back on that. But I'll tell you, and I've just come to this realization, like, even if that was to happen, like, I still ain't gonna get what I want.
Right. And that's your son back.
Right. There's nothing that can do that. So, and you know, and we'll be totally transparent. I was like, I want them to feel exactly how I feel. Mm-hmm. I want you to feel. But now I'm like, I don't want nobody to feel this. Like, because you gotta think, man, something's gone and it can't be, it's a whole piece gone from me. I can't replace it, so.
How, brother, I would not have been able to allow, and this is just me, Empress to go off to college.
Yes.
I got
Go ahead, bro.
18-year-old twins, live in Greensboro. Daughter had some interest in going to New York to school, freshman. Mm-hmm. And very sheltered. And I was scared to let her go. So I'm really curious about his question to you.
Man. You know,
especially after.
Yeah. So we get into this, and you know, you still want your kids to live, and I'm like, of course, I'm gonna tell you honestly. So Empress went to School of Arts, so performing arts, all right? So she's already away. I'm literally want everybody to be in my house. I'm talking about I want including my grandson. I want all the children that I am close to, that I have a direct connection to, I want everybody to be in my house. I mean, to the point where I was literally going to propose, like, let's tell his mom and let's tell the baby they can come stay with us. We got more than enough room. They can come stay with us. Like, we can go ahead. Already had everything set up. So when Empress starts telling me, okay, like where she's going to school, she's like, oh, I applied Fordham, or I applied Columbia, or I applied St. John's. I get it quick. I'm like, these are all right in one area.
All New York.
Yes, I'm like, okay. And then she's like, oh, I applied Coastal, so that's like a school in South Carolina. I'm like, okay, it's College Charleston. So in my mind, I'm like, I know how much of a mama's girl you are. You ain't gonna go this far. So, she got into all, she got into all of them. Got full scholarships. So I'm like, hold on now. So I can't, now I'm like, I want to keep you close, but I don't want you to squander this opportunity. I'll tell y'all, it took a lot. It took a lot with me saying, okay, I can't live scared. I feel I instilled all the values that I can, and that's all you can do, and then your children go off. So when she went, I'll tell you this, I could not go. I knew that already. I was like, I'm not going. I can't go to drop her off. No, I already did that. Let me tell y'all, I did that going to the School of Arts, which I could drive to every day if I want.
Right.
I did it by myself. The reason was I knew I was going to be tore up. Oh, man, that was the longest ride ever back home.
Yeah.
Oh, I was boo-hoo crying and playing slow jams and playing Isn't She Lovely by Stevie Wonder. And, oh, yeah, all the daughter songs. I'll tell you what made me feel better. When she called me and said that it's safe, like I feel safe here. That took a lot off my shoulders because, like you said earlier, like, I mean, the one thing is we exposed her to a lot, but she's still sheltered.
Yeah.
Like she, as far as like, I'll say like street culture, she's doing better now, but as far as like she didn't know, like, I remember like little boys trying to talk to her and she didn't even realize they're trying to talk to her. Like, what does that mean? I'm like, what? What the little boy say?
Yeah.
He said, what? So I'm like, this means X, Y. She's like, oh my God. Yeah. And I'm like, so that right there, I was like, okay, you need to be, I know what circle you need to be in.
Yeah.
So the one thing is, you get other people telling you like New York and, it's bad and da-da-da. I think, honestly, that child has the urban mentality though. Like, she's not gonna live in the suburbs. I already know that. Like, she wants to be on top of everything. She wants to hear the noise and
she wants the concrete jungle.
Yeah, she wants that because she got a taste of it.
Yeah.
So, once you get that taste, you got that one toe in there, you're like, oh, let me go run with it and see where this takes me. So that right there, but like I said, like, I couldn't live in fear. We'll go back to Nas. I'll tell you, we do a memorial. I tell my mom everything's cool. My mom is terrified. Oh, it's like 6 cops cars at the church.
Wow.
So now we got to back up. I'm going to tell you about my family. So, when they pull up, they like, well, hold on. What's going on out here? And I'm like, I didn't know that. Like, Jarvis knew that because she was like, I thought you would get upset. And I'm like, no, I want to make sure everybody's good. Mm-hmm. So, y'all, my whole thing is I didn't get to grieve, honestly, until maybe 2 weeks after that. I'll tell you, I was just sitting on my porch, like I do being nosy. I'm sitting on the porch, and I grabbed my phone, because I was listening to music, and I heard something. I'm like, oh, man, I wonder if he heard this. I grab my phone, I go to the name, you push, and it's like, doo-doo-doo. And I'm like, So I'm still thinking like, this boy ain't pay his phone bill. Man, what is going on? I just happened to look, like your phone goes back and I'm looking, and I had a picture of the obituary. And I look at him like, oh, this is real.
Wow.
And my whole body just gets numb. And I'm out there by myself and I'm just boo-hoo crying. And you know what I'm saying? I'm telling them I'm sorry. Because as a parent and as a dad, you want to be a protector. Even though he's a grown man, I still see him as my little boy. So I told him I'm sorry. The funniest thing is, like, you're like, I want to make sure you, just tell me you cool, and I want to make sure you good. So I'm in the house, and I'm leaving, and like, I don't even have this stuff on. Like, I don't have the Bluetooth speaker on, I don't have nothing. And the song just busting to the max. Mind you, it's like 12:30 at night. So Jarvis is jumping up, the girls are jumping up, and I listen, I'm like, this is the last song he let me hear. I'm like, oh, you good then, huh? I'm like, okay. Okay, so there's some silence in that. Like, the good thing is, like, I get to, he has left something, his legacy. And it's so funny that we've taken pictures and he does the exact same things his dad does at the same age. As far as on I have a core belief that I believe there's a greater power. Now, as far as all these branches, I think there's truth in a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm like, I do believe, that we all have a soul, and our soul and your soul lives forever. We all know that we are living vibrations. We know that we're energy. So I think about that, and I'm like, I see that in you. So when I look at him, I see his dad. Like, when I look in his eyes, I'm like, dang, like, God, is this the one you like? All right, look, this your do-over right here, man. Like, get this one right. It's funny because I can't be there all the time. So every time I see him, even though he's only 2, I try to have grown conversations with him just so I can, like, impart wisdom in him. Because, studies, children are sponges right now.
Yep.
Till the age of 6. You tell them something, they will remember it. And I told everybody I want to be the one, because it's going to come a day. That's the next day I feel where he's going to ask me about his dad.
Yeah.
Or somebody about his dad. And I'm going to have to tell him. And I told everybody, please let me tell him. I don't want anybody else to tell him, because I have a whole different perspective than everybody else.
How often do you see your grandson?
Oh, man, I try to see him as much as possible. If anything, I speak to him. His mom and my mom, so the way they had it set up, they had the arrangement, okay, he'll stay at your house a week, he'll be with me a week.
Gotcha.
She has not gone away from that, which I'm so thankful for my parents' sanity. Yeah. So they still keep him a week, and then they get him a week. So usually when he's there, anything happens in his FaceTime, and then he calls me Poppy. So he asks where I'm at. Like, he does the same things. Like, I can't make a step, and he's like, where you going? Like, I'm coming with you. So I did the same thing with his dad. So I take him with me, and I see he's spoiled rotten. It bothers me. But like I was saying earlier, I know some stuff, certain things I'm not gonna be able to change that. Yeah. That's not gonna change at all. He's gonna be spoiled way worse than his dad, just from the situation of how his dad passed away and just being his dad's not here. As far as everybody else in my family, I think my mom's taking it hard, but like it's really my dad's really taking it hard because their relationship was one of. My mom goes to bed early. My dad's retired, so he's the old guy. He taking that 12:30 nap. Then he gonna take him about 3. So he up to about 12:31 in the morning. So when Nas would come in, he said, that's one of the things he missed because that's when me and him were able to talk one-on-one, like them late nights. So, and but now it's coming. I remember things now. Like, I'll tell y'all, because it happened right next door to my parents. Y'all, I sat outside of my car every night till like the next day, just waiting to see if somebody was gonna come over here. Every day. I didn't know my mom knew that. So my mom said she would stay up until I walked in that house to make sure that I didn't go over there. I will tell y'all, I did jump that fence a couple times and probably scared the living daylights out of some people because the one thing is, I'm to the point now, I want to know what happened. Like, regardless what it is, like, I want to know what happened. Like, y'all don't know, that's my prayer every day. Like, just show me what happened. Because I want to know. Because I need to know. I can tell you what I've heard or what credible people have told me and that were over there and heard the shots and whatnot. And, I had a cousin that actually was in the apartment. It was actually at his apartment. And I tell y'all, he tried to tell me. And I told him, no, don't. Because I saw how hurt he was. That was my thing. I wanted to make sure everybody else was good. Because I was just keeping everything down. Like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. Like, you good? I'm trying to make sure everybody else is good. So that's funny that I think about now. I want to know what I think it was. No, like I couldn't let you find out. You're too close. If and I think God works that mysterious ways. Like, it's not cliche. Like, it's always for your better.
Right.
Like, listen, like you got some other stuff you need to do. I can't reveal that to you now. So I take solace in that. Like, okay, it's not time yet. Yeah. Like I said, I still have my days. I still go to work. I'm still in that staircase, boo, crying. Especially if it's something that triggers me. So I work in healthcare. So if it triggers me and I see somebody, young kid like my son's age, a victim of gun violence, then that triggers me.
Right.
Regardless of what he did. I remember we had a conversation, me and Jill, about guns. Like, what do you think, like, would make you use a firearm? And I'm like, to protect my life and my family's. Like, in imminent danger. And, I think about that and I'm like, that's not the way it's going. I think all these influences is not the kids. It's the influence the kids have. Because a lot of these kids are really good. They're good kids. Like, and I just remember being their age and remember how we got beat up by what we liked and how we wore our hair and how we dressed. It's just a cycle. Yeah. We're the old people now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we're the old people that don't know anything.
Right.
So, just taking solace in that, I think about that and I'm like, just like as far as with Nas, like I remember he told me, like, I've always been, I just get musically inclined. I can play a few instruments and so I kind of knew that was going to be in there because I kind of like put it in there early. Like I gave him an old computer of mine. Y'all, I only put 90s hip hop on it. That's it. So the first thing he was hearing is Wu-Tang, Biggie. Like those are the first hip hop songs he heard. Right. So I was like, yeah, he going to get this bug. Right. So, I heard he bought some equipment. It's Thanksgiving the year before, come down there. Like, yo, man, I got, like, come in the room. I'm like, okay, got some equipment. I'm working on the song. I'm like, let's do something, man. He like, all right. cue it up. He mixed, masters it. I get it back like the next day, and I'm like, oh, this sounds good. So I'm like, all right, this kid on to something. I was like, let me see how I can tap into this. I was like, because right now is the time, like with social media. I was like, these kids are making buku's money. This is what they do all day anyway. Why not monetize it? So he's talking. He's like, he goes, he does an LLC. He goes, starts getting merchandise. He does it. He's telling me like, I'm gonna do this song. He puts out a single, like, see it on Apple. I'm hyped. I'm hyped because he didn't tell me. Does that? He does the album. Like I said, the last time I talked to him, he's like, I didn't even know it was out. He's like, you're on my album? I'm like, no. Like, what's it on? He's like, everything. I'm like, it's on Tidal. He like, yeah. Pull it up. I'll tell you, man. We're sitting at a Waffle House. Ordered some food. You know, that's another thing too about Nas. Like, everybody knew this dude. Like, he one of the people, like, you know, everybody got a friend. You go to a place, you like, man, you know somebody everywhere. Like, you might be out of state, and you be like, ain't that my man? Yo, what's going on? He's like, you know, that's this kid. Cause I'm like, you know them, like so we haven't rolled together like since, you know, like he was grown. You know, I would say I did get to take a shot with him. Like, I took the shot with him at 21. But he just let me his, and I'm like, okay. So I think his whole thing, he was like, he was smart too. Like, he was like, so he had like all these other little, and he's like, he's writing up contracts. Like, all right, like, it's gonna be a percentage of X, Y, Z. I got everything. I got all the equipment, everything we're gonna do. He started buying production stuff, like put little cameras and stuff. He's like, so y'all got to pay me to use this. Very smart of him. So he did a lot. He like I said, he put that. And the last time I told you, when like he wants me to pull up, and I'm like, all right, let me pull up this little album. I pull it up and I'm looking. He's like, you see the cover? And I'm looking. I'm like, that's me. He like, yeah, man. He's like, yeah, I want to put you on my cover. So it's kind of like, that was his way of being like, man, I'm sorry for putting you all through this all this nonsense. That was his way, instead of him saying that. Because think, he could have did whatever he wanted, but he got a picture of me holding him as a baby and was like, I'll make this the cover. Wow. So my only project. Like, I don't know where anything else is. I'm pretty sure some more things out there, but I don't know. But man, I say all of that to be like, if you got a son, then I'm like, don't beat him up. Like, he's gonna mess up. We all did. And that's the one thing I wanted him to be so perfect. Cause after him, I had all these girls. I'm like, you gotta be the shining light. Like, and y'all know the crazy thing is, they think he's perfect. They still saw that. But I was just like, no, I need you to be better than what I am. And then, full circle, he thought I was perfect. So,
brother, I got a question for you. I know you're taking care of everybody else and making sure everybody else is good. Are you making sure that you're good, bro?
oh yeah. That's why I go to counseling. That's why I go to therapy. I always spend time, and you know, I spend time with myself. I've always been that guy. Like, my circle's very small. So when I invite you in, like, you're my family. Because I really don't. I don't have a lot of people I call friends.
I got you.
You know, I know a lot of people, you know, from playing sports and when I go home. I think one of the things I did too, I read a book too. My best friend bought me a book. And he's like, have you read this? And it's Ways of the Superior Man. And I'm like, nah, I thought about it, like, I saw it, but I want to read it. So the book basically is just all the aspects of just being a manhood, of just being able to control your emotions and understand, like, what's going to be your purpose. Because I think that's one of the things, that's to answer your question too. I feel like, and I fought with it. And I'm like, is this what you want me to do right here? I'll be honest with y'all. I haven't found anything like this. So, and I'll tell you, I searched through my phone, like, let me see what somebody else like. And I wanted to see it from a black dad. Like, there's nothing like that. So I think it's a resource because we've been talking about cliche about therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So just think how many dudes went through the same thing I did. And it's just balled up inside.
Yeah.
They don't have any outlet. I think talking about that one, how I get through, one of the greatest things, I tell you, my best friend told me, because this is the one thing, everybody tells you anything you need, and it's frustrating.
Yeah.
That is very frustrating when you're going through
I agree.
loss because you think in your head, you know what I need.
Yeah, I need one thing. The
Yes,
person I
that's
lost,
all I want. But you know what he told me? He just told me 2 words. I'm available. And I'm starting to think like, I need to do that.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, it ain't been a year.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's 9 months. So, I mean, I think it's symbolic that we're doing it the 9th month. Because that's when birth comes. That's when life comes. So, I just think like we start like this therapy for me. Like, I told everybody like I'm about to go talk about this, and nothing is off limits. Because I'll tell you, I didn't have a perfect child, but he's perfect to me.
Yeah. Come on, man.
And I mean, I just think it's a bigger issue than just me. It's just senseless. You know, you go back, you're like, okay, you know how easy it is to get a firearm. It's nothing.
Yeah.
It's really nothing. I mean, this thing in the county we in right now, which is crazy. I can go buy me a shotgun, a rifle, all this. I ain't gotta do anything. I want to get a handgun. I gotta go register now and let y'all know. But I can go buy the assault rifle though, and the shotgun. Yeah. So to me, I'm like, it's backwards, and I'm thinking we all know the system's broken.
Yeah.
But we've heard that so much. So now I'm about like, okay, what can we do to manipulate the system? Because I'm gonna be honest, we're not changing it. Like this is a whole construct and a whole plan that has been planned out. One of the greatest plan in civilization, what we are living in.
Yeah.
So I'm not about. I'm like, let me manipulate the system though, because I understand. You know, you get older and you start understanding how things work. And you're like, all right, I understand. Like, I need to manipulate some things because this is gonna be in place.
Yeah.
But I need to manipulate it. So that is my thing. We've heard all the gun control and all the commercials and this is the one thing though. How many kids watching TV?
All of them.
So can we do something else? Like,
Yeah.
and you gotta think. I mean, I can go all the way down to music I love, and it's just really odd that everything that is actually put in place to break down as far as family structure, morals, integrity, that's all thrown to the forefront. So people who are trying to actually do that, no, they're under. You gotta search. You gotta be an archaeologist to find them. If you want some foolishness, some ratchetness, then it's right there in front of your face. Mm-hmm. And like I said, a lot of kids are influences. I think they understand they are influencing, but I think the whole thing with what has been shown as being success, which is having things, is what we go to. You think about that, I mean, just going back, this thing like just something like BMWs, and it was a black man wish. Or, or our concepts are different. And you know what I found out, y'all? The reason why we are like this is because we don't speak to our kids about things like this. Other cultures put everything on the table.
Yep.
They really do. They put everything on the table. I listen to my child speak with her friends, and I'm just amazed at what they say, but I'm happy that they're saying it in front of her. I think there's one more thing that we have to do, and we know it's attack on the family structure. We have to get back
Just talked about that.
to I mean, and it's not. It's just back to brick and mortar. Like, all right, listen, this is what you need to do. Let's find out what you're good at. Let me tell you what not to do, what don't do. And instead of doing that, I found that these kids like Missouri, you got to show them. If you show them, then they're like, oh, okay. So I've started upon that, like, I'm trying to make everything visual. So something happens, I'm like, hey, KJ, you see what happened right there?
Right.
This is why that happens. This could have been the other alternative.
Yeah.
This could have been this way. So one of the things as far as like gun violence, that's the things like, so I look at my grandson and I'm like, okay, you growing up here. I look at my daughters, you growing up here. I think it's the same place. It's the same thing, just different zip code though. So you got to impart that, because as much as I want to keep my kids and we stay in the quiet suburbs, and fire engine go off in my neighborhood, everybody outside, so nothing's happening. But then I understand when you leave out of here though, at one point in life you're going to be around people who didn't have it this way. So I want to impart in them like it's a family structure, because I just think it just works better with two. Like, you always got somebody to lean on, man. Like, I mean, just as far as like we was asking me earlier there about like how my wife deals with things. We watched this about coming together, and you say, like, how much you got today?
Yeah.
Yeah, I only got 40%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold that 60 for you.
Yeah.
So just letting your kids see stuff like that, because we don't try to hide it. I try to make it a thing. Like, look, Dad only got 25% today. So you can know, like, that's why my shirt, like, it's okay to not be okay. And that was one thing I had to actually realize, because remember I was saying I wanted to make sure everybody else was okay.
Yeah.
I didn't have to do that, like, because it was okay if they weren't okay.
Exactly.
And I want the quick fix, like, so I stayed down there until I felt, not everybody telling me that, until I felt, I was like, okay, parents good. All right, everything's died down, because you got people coming there every day, and everybody got their own mode. Some people coming to eat. That's it. They just coming to eat. You got other people that coming to be nosy so they can gossip. Then you have people that genuinely there, like, for you. But that's the one thing. So I say all of that, all the rambling, like, therapy, my family. Because I will tell you this, my dad calls me more than I call him now to make sure I'm okay. Because he's told me I can't even, I don't know, I can't empathize with you. I can't imagine this. This is I think every parent, I don't care who you are, this every parent's worst fear.
Yeah.
And I used to always, all I said was, I'm supposed to be the old honorary man. And I got the caretaker at my house and I'm acting up. It's like, I need to call your son. And he's supposed to be like, Dad, calm down, man. Like, I'm coming there. Like, look, we can go to the game. Something like that. So that's, I was looking forward to that. I was literally looking forward to being that guy. Like, I'm going to be this old, grumpy old man. My son will be the only one to calm me down because I got all girls. They not going to be able to calm. So, I mean, I had I had those things, and I was like, that was my plan. But like I said earlier, it's one of my favorite sayings, man. God laugh at your plans all the time.
But I'm still struggling with it. I'm trying to figure out like what am I gonna do? Because I don't want to do the cliche. Let's have a round table discussion and or or do it like. And not saying those programs. I think like substance abuse program. This different from this, like because this is something totally different from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is something. It's not like it's not a crutch. It's something that's never gonna go. Somebody can get off alcohol. Somebody can get off drugs. You're not gonna get off of this.
Right.
But it's about, okay, so how are you gonna still live and still be able to impart on people who depend on you still, but in the same time, still take care of yourself.
Yeah.
My wife does. I will tell y'all, my wife will take the girls and just go, and they're gone all day, just so I can be by myself. And I love her for that. Because I used to be like, why y'all leaving me out? Like, I want to go. And she had explained it like, no, I know you need time alone.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I do. I started meditating. That's probably one of the great. It's the greatest thing because it's not hard, but it is hard. Because the basis is focus on your breathing. But this right here, I just saw something said. You live in your head most of your life, so why not make it peaceful? And that just it sat with me. Like it still is like I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get this blown up, put it on my wall. Because you think about it, that is what we're doing. Like we're our biggest competition.
Yeah.
We're our biggest critics.
Yeah.
Just like, I know I did all the what ifs in the world. Well, what if this? Well, what if I was there? What if I would have went home a day early? What if? Because I was there. I was planning on doing that. Because my dad, another thing, and oh man, that's crazy. I just thought about this. So, Nas was murdered the day after my parents' anniversary.
Wow.
I just thought of that. So now that intensifies that whole thing about it happening right by the house, right after their anniversary. Wow. So I'm open for y'all, man. Whatever y'all want to ask, because we can talk all day. Y'all know me. I'll talk all day.
Well, look, bruh. I'm gonna ask you something really interesting, man. And I hope you don't mind.
No.
I'm a big believer. I believe that God will get us through and guide us through hard times.
Mm-hmm.
I just believe it with everything that's in me. Hard times will happen to us, but we have to lean on Him.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when we should lean on Him the most. We're going to wrap. If it's cool with you, I'd just like to pray us out, bro. If that's okay with you.
Let's do it, man. You see what So this is one thing I got. I don't have tattoos, but I had this. Jarvis has the opposite, so this is on top. This means God's greater than your ups and downs.
That's what's up.
This is all the kids.
Wow.
So, for you to say that, but when I tell you, since this, I've never been like, I fought against the church because I had to do it when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I think there's one thing, too, we got to do. Like, don't be forceful because all you're doing is pushing the kids away.
Yeah.
But I will say that's one of my, that is something that has brought me close to God because, I have had conversations and I have heard Him tell me things. So I will tell you, it's the first time in my life that's happened. You hear people say that, I'm like, it doesn't happen to me. Like, I don't believe that. No, that's real. Like,
It's real.
It is very real. You just don't listen most of the time. That's what it is. So yeah, brother, if you want, yeah.
All right, bro. I'm gonna hold your hand, brother. Dear eternal and wise God, thank you for allowing us to assemble here today. Thank you for every family that's represented here today. God, I pray a special prayer of peace. Peace on Kareem. Peace on his family. God, I know you have Nas in your bosom right now as we're sitting down here talking about him. God, I ask you to continue to watch over Kareem and his family, continue to touch them, continue to ease the pain. We know it's a long road, but just let them know that you're there with them every step of the way. God, continue to watch over Kareem's other kids, his daughter who's away in college, his daughters who are at home. Continue to watch over his wife. Continue to allow her to be a strong vessel in his life. God, give him a peace of mind that surpasses all understanding. Just be with him. Let him know that he has a group of brothers. When he's at 40, we'll take up the other 60. If he's at 10, we'll take up the other 90. God, we're here for him. Thank you for everything you've done. Yes. We know this is going to be okay. We know Nas's passing is not going to be in vain. Yes. God, there's a bigger story at the end of this. We just don't know what it is yet, but we trust in you, and we trust that this is going to be a better world because of it. God, be with us now. Be with us always. It's in Jesus' Master's name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yes. Appreciate y'all, man.
Thank you.